viewers. Welcome to the Political Hour Show here with me on Eco TV International, The People's Choice. I am your host, Roheyatou Touray. Every week, we invite people to come and discuss about the trending issues in the Gambia here. And today here with me is one of the prominent citizens in the Gambia here. We will talk about some of the issues that are trending in our Gambia here. And our topics today will be irregular migration, the recent protest, and many other things. Look forward to it, inshallah. You can also follow us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Sponsors are also invited. You can call on the various numbers on the screen to sponsor this program. Assalamu alaikum. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Madam Roheyatou. It's indeed a pleasure to be with you here today.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us today. And regarding the recent protest, we've seen that you were also among the youth that has gone out to protest in the case of your fellow youths to be released, because no one knows then where they were kept. And with that, your voices were heard by the government and the citizens. Your fellow youths were released, and that has shown that you have love for your fellow brothers in the country here. Why do you engage in such activity?
Like the participation of youths in politics, it would be a common knowledge that the youths of any nation usually make up the largest or the lion's share of the population.
Sure.
And of course, having the youths participating in politics would be very crucial, because most of these youths are very vibrant. They are well talented, and some of them are well informed. So when they see it as part and parcel of their lives to be engaged in politics, I believe that will not only help to sanitize some of the, let me say, unwanted elements within the system, but they will also pave a way forward for the nation at large. So the youth participation in politics is something that is very, very crucial. Yes.
Okay, and looking at the protest too, it is due to the selling of the former president Yahya Jammeh's asset, which has prompted the anger in the people for them to go out and protest. But they were not permitted. They were not given the permit to go out and protest. So that was why they were arrested. So, and now, how has the selling of Jammeh's properties, assets rather, impacted the lives of the youths and the economy in the Gambia here?
I guess I'm missing that point. You can come again.
Okay, I mean, how has the selling of the former president Yahya Jammeh's asset impacted the lives of the youths and the economy of the Gambia?
Yes, politics, whether one admits it or not, have direct impact in the lives and livelihoods of all citizens that reside in a country, particularly the youth. Why? Because those persons that we put in various positions of trust are usually the persons that make up the policies and the rules and regulations that govern our daily lives. And that will entail having to include what the country might be going through, and of course the set of policies that affects our life directly. Take for example, the government will make up policies like in terms of international relations. Some of the agreements or policies that they put in place do not actually like favor the youths, who are the cream of the nation. So you will get to realize that sometimes, like the youths, for them to be involved in politics, it is something that should be emphasized and encouraged, because mostly the youths are even more competent enough to govern a particular nation, particularly Africa. We have seen countries that have been so far governed by young people. Take for example, Burkina Faso, which has been the recent subject of many media houses. We have seen Captain Ibrahim Touray within this short term that he has been in office, and the development that he has been so far emanating in the country, and there are promising signs that there will be a lot of development. Unlike the previous governments that were there, most of whom were not young people, you will get to see their thinking, most of their thinking capacities are primitive and they are not mostly up to date.
Okay.
Yes. So that's why for the youths to be engaged, it should be encouraged, should be very, very encouraged. And I give immense thanks to one like Alhaji Mamadu Kurang. That man is a man of virtue. He's a man that I have a very high regard for. He has so far been engaged in politics, and he do it in a way and manner that really encourages other youths to take part in politics. And so far, he has manifested qualities of trustworthiness, being truthful, and being straightforward. It seems by all indications that he is having the interests of the country at heart. So unlike most of the known youth persons that are in government, we all know, like, once they get into position, what they want to achieve are those things that they could not actually achieve when they were younger. So you see their focus and efforts usually are centered towards how to acquire wealth and how to enrich themselves at the detriment of the masses. So unlike the youths, whom when we put them in positions of trust, they are most likely to serve the country than individual selfish interests.
Okay,
Yes.
and you mentioned that the youth should be encouraged to join politics. What are some of the steps that you think should be done or implemented so that the youths can venture into politics more?
Okay. It seems like I lost that point.
Okay, I said that you mentioned that previously that the youths should be encouraged to venture into politics. So what are some of the steps that you think should be done or implemented so that the youths can venture into politics?
Okay. Some of the steps that can be implemented in encouraging the youth's participation in politics would be numerous. But just to mention few, is to have them involved in decision-making platforms.
Okay.
For example, for instance, the youth parliament, where I have some of my colleagues participating meaningfully towards the development of the country, and of course, towards bringing those ideas, those initiatives that they believe will help to foster the individual growth of the youth, their full participation in towards the content development, and of course, they pinpoint the problems that some of the youth are going through. So you see, not only that could be a way of getting the youth encouraged to get themselves involved in politics, it is also important to quickly add that the government in particular could establish many ventures that will help the youths to get involved in the politics. One of which could be getting youth politicians,
Okay.
and of course, when the youths get themselves or affiliated with a particular political party, it would be very important, or in fact paramount, to get them in positions of, let me say, influential positions, such as the executive positions, such as getting them realize that they have a voice, making them believe that the country or the future of the country is in their hands. In that, they will feel that they have this national duty to exercise towards the nation. And of course, I believe when they are given the opportunities, they will think outside the box and come up with ideas and policies that will help to foster national development and many more to that.
Okay, and
Yes.
regarding that, what is your current perspective on the current landscape of the politics in the Gambia right now? And do you think the voices of the youth are represented?
Our own perspective towards the Gambian
Political
politics.
landscape in the Gambia
Yes,
right now.
although I have not been very much involved in politics, and I hardly follow up the happenings within the Gambia's political arena until when the time came, the time that I felt that honestly the Gambia has been shackled with the chains of dictatorship, and many people, including the youth, we are going through a very tough time, and that the one that was actually in position was giving her threats, not only to old people but even the young ones. He was jeopardizing our future, and at that point in time it seems that the country was running like a headless chicken. So when the right time came, say 2016,
Okay.
we went to the electoral polls. I felt at that point in time that it is actually the youth that summoned the courage. They stood firmly to salvage the country towards the direction that the then dictator was taking us to. We have seen in many cases where, let me say, our elder ones did all what they could do humanly to elbow the man out of power, but then it all proved futile. But then when the youths take it up as a national duty, they came together not only as brothers, but also as the same Gambian people that belong to the same motherland. We have seen the various strategies that they put in place and implemented, including the burning of the National Disaster Agency, where it was believed that some voters' cards were hidden in advance to the election. We believe those were even ID cards that do not actually belong to the Gambian national. We believe they were IDs of foreign nationals whom they usually use to vote for the then incumbent. But then the youth, they took courage. They make sure all the plans that the then government was putting in place for a continuous self-perpetuating rule comes to an end. They did all what it takes to make sure that the election that took place in 2016 would be fair and free from all electoral malpractices. And it was only then.
Do you believe that the election was fair?
To be very, very candid with you, I do not always believe that the electoral system or the IEC in particular are always fair in terms of presidential elections.
Why is that?
Yes, let's take for instance the last presidential election. Many people were of the mind that UDP would have emerged victorious, considering the number of supporters that were rallying behind Honorable Hussein Odabo, and of course the, let me say, the multitude number of supporters who were 18 and above, who were legally recognized to vote. They all went to the poll, I believe, and then they voted accordingly. Initially, when the contest started, everybody was in high hopes that UDP would have emerged victorious, but then there was a sudden stop to everything. We just suddenly, because myself, I was sitting in my parlor, I was just watching the counting and then the results from one constituency to another, but then there was a sudden stop, which lasted for more than 1 hour, and then the IEC never come to give us reasons to that. We were left in limbo. Everybody was thinking what was happening. Then all of a sudden, they resume their activities, and then it happens like once applied a magic that the NPP was just topping all the other political parties that contested for that election. and then UDP was left way far behind. And then the results were then crystal clear that it was going to be for NPP. But then here comes, after NPP was declared the winner of the presidential election, those agencies of various political parties that were appointed to took part in the counting of votes and the like, they all made very severe allegations of electoral malpractices.
Okay.
Some even go to an extent of bringing forth what they believe to serve as evidence, documents, and other stuff that they link to the electoral malpractices that actually took place behind closed doors. And then many reasonable-minded Gambians that truly follow up that particular elections and all the processes and all the activities that were linked to it will be bound to believe that the elections were rather rich and it was not free and fair. So as a result of that, I also come to harbor the belief that Gambian elections, sometimes the integrity of the IEC and the fairness of the elections are sometimes subject to questioning.
Okay, so you mean to say that the 2021 election, UDP was robbed
Exactly.
of their votes?
Very well, very well.
Okay, and what do you think should be done to avoid such things?
Come again?
I said, what do you think should be done to avoid such things during election, and election, the 2026 election is fast approaching? What advice would you give to the people to avoid such practices?
Well, although I have not been involved in these government subjects, but then the little that I also understand in government and let me say elections in particular, is that in every country they must have an independent body that should exercise its duties in a very neutral manner. They should not side with one political party over another. The only thing that they should be doing as per their mandate is to make sure that they conduct a free and fair elections where the Gambian people will come to choose their prospective leaders. So if they have been mandated to do so, they should understand that the consequences of electoral malpractices will sometimes be very fatal, because we have seen in other countries where it happened and then people have to resort to protest, demonstration, and then where they release their ultimate bulldogs, men in uniform, that will go and counteract the protests of these particular youths or individuals or concerned citizens. And most of these protests end up in bloodshed, where people usually lost their lives, and then it all amounts to disaster. So the electoral body should have that in mind, that they are mandated, and it is because of trust that the government and the citizens in particular have in them, which is why we appoint them to conduct elections on our behalf. So one of the methods that they should employ in order to shy away from electoral malpractices is to avoid taking, I have never come across with it, but then just an individual belief or opinion. They should shy away from taking bribes, and they should shy away from aligning themselves with a particular political party. Although I know they might be bound to be in favor of a particular political party, but they should not allow their political affiliation to come into conflict with their national mandate. But after all, this country belongs to all of us. When we put in place good leaders that have the interests of the country at heart, the benefit does not only goes to one man, it goes to everybody. And they should also bear in mind that one day history will tell how they have served the nation when they were given the opportunity. So it is very, very paramount to remind the EC that their mandates are very paramount, and it determines the fate of a particular country. When they do or exercise their mandate in a free and fair and neutral manner, then people will always give them the credibility of whatsoever result they announce at the end of the electoral process. But then once they lack that credibility, then whenever presidential elections come, people are always in doubt if the actual winner of that particular election will be given his or her victory. And then even when they announce the results, then people are always having these mixed feelings, this doubt, and then it does not always end up well. So they should save the country from that particular fate. They can do so, I believe, because they are competent enough to do so.
Okay.
Yes.
Sai, iti amira muna katina mubariel beje muyatina youth soul buka participate politics kono.
Come again?
Nko iti amira mubariel beje min katina youth soul buka participate fonko election fonko kono politics kono.
It's like I'm still not getting the point.
Okay, what I mean to say is that iti amira mumbarias lebeje min katina youth soul buka participate politics kono.
Yes, yes. Once like the IEC is affiliated with a particular political party, there is high tendency that they might also desire for that particular party to win elections or to be in government positions. Like I said earlier, it does not always end up well, because once they get affiliated with a particular political party, then their integrity to exercise free and fair election will be very, very difficult, if not, in fact, impossible. Yes.
Okay, and in your opinion, what can be done to encourage more young Gambians to engage in politics and community services?
Some of the things that can be done to encourage young Gambians in politics and community service, as you mentioned it,
yes,
is to create platforms where young Gambians that are very concerned with the affairs of the nation can sit and talk about the current political affairs in the country and how it is impacting their lives either positively or negatively.
okay,
Sometimes I do hear in all of that, so buge akara danga nyemekane. Yes. So the government should allow the young Gambians, the youths at that, to be engaged in various platforms where they can also make their voice heard. They can also speak with confidence without fear or intimidation that after voicing their own concerns out, they will be encountered with arbitrary arrest, disappearance, so on and so forth. They should make them believe that they have that fundamental right to freedom of expression, to also speak out what they believe is right and what they believe is wrong. And in some areas, the government will surely get praised for the good work it must have been doing. They will be recommended for the good things they have been doing or they have done for the Gambian people, which, of course, I believe youths that are reasonable minded will always do. But then sometimes in any case that you have an advantage, usually it is accompanied by a disadvantage. And if you want to lead in a very correct manner, error-free, then you should allow people that are serving as watchdog unto you to also point out to your faults, to point out to the things that you are not actually doing right. And once they do that, even when you cannot actually commend them for doing so, as a leader, what you should do is to make sure you also identify the particular errors and faults and then implement corrective measures so as to be able to continue leading in a very smooth manner, in a way and manner that the people that you are leading will be satisfied with your government and your way of governance. But then, as it has usually been the case in our country, once the youths happen to criticize governments, then it does not always go down well with them. And that has served as one of the discouragements of youth participation in politics, because myself in particular, there have been times where I wanted to get myself involved into politics, but then this fear always grab people. Okay. That once you get yourself involved into politics, the ultimate fate is to get arrested, get killed, or let me say a fate that you will not actually desire for yourself. So that always serves as a discouragement. So then the governments will allow the youths in particular to speak out their voice, to share their own opinions, because this country actually belongs to everybody. Nobody can claim ownership of a country. That's why Manenka, they will tell you, Masakunda mu nyoko furan kalmalti. No matter how long you are in government, one day or the other, you'll be out. Whether it happens to be voluntarily or involuntarily, but you will not be there forever. That is that is very, very sure. But then it's important to quickly add that once you are governing a country, you do it in a way and manner where you do not actually step on the rights of the citizen. You do not abuse them, do not maltreat them. Then you can be assured that life after presidency will always go down well with you. But then if they do the opposite, then that's the time they will even attempt to sign their life on that throne, because they already have in mind that whenever I step down, then these people will hold me accountable for some of the things that I have done during my presidency, and that's where the greed and the insatiable desire to remain in power comes in play.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, time is not on our side. Sambi time obana. Sign. Ite munaje, comment like, what changes would you like to see in the Gambia in terms of governance and for youth participation in politics in the next 5 years coming?
Like some of the changes that I would recommend in terms of these areas that you have mentioned.
Yes, in governance.
Of course.
Okay.
I will actually love it that the youths are put in positions of trust. In the parliament before, most of the parliamentarians were not young people, but in recent days, I'm seeing a number of very young persons serving their various constituencies in the parliament. I believe once the youths are given this equal opportunity to serve in various arms of government, that there will be positive changes such as a country that is being steered by the youths in such a way that other countries will also get to admire the way and manner the government is giving equal opportunities to its young people to be involved in its governance. And one of the ways to do that, so far, what they have done is to create a youth parliament. And I believe there are many other policies that they can also put in place that can encourage youth participation in politics.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much for joining us today. Just that time didn't allow us, and we cannot exhaust all the topics that we wanted to discuss about. It's an honor having you here. Thank you very much. What is your last word before we leave?
What I will actually say to my fellow Gambians so far is, particularly the youth, is that the future of this country is in our hands. If the country is heading towards the right direction, it will be to our own good. If the country also is heading towards a very bad direction, it will be to our own detriment. And let them get this feeling of nationalism and be patriotic. Let them resist any force that comes in play to discourage them from getting involved into politics. Because at the end of the day, the future of the country is in their hands. And if they are so much intimidated to the point that they prefer or resort to withdrawal from political affairs of the country, then history will not account on their legacy well. We all have this national duty to be part of politics because we constitute the largest share of the population. If we feel that a particular government is not serving the interests of the company, the country rather, it is us that to take it as our national mandate to come together to effect the necessary change if needs be. But once we withdraw, then the elderly persons will be left with limited options, and even if they want to, they might not be eventually able to effect the change that they want. The change can only come when the youths, in particular, act and speak in unison. Once that happens, like they always say, the power is always with the people. Then we will get the country or the Gambia that we have been yearning for.
Okay. Thank you very much for joining us today. Well, this is how we've come to the end of the program. You are watching Eco TV International, the People's Choice, and this is the Political Hour Show here with me, Roheyatou Touray. You can kindly follow us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Sponsors are also invited. You can call on the various numbers on the screen to sponsor this program. Till next week, inshallah. Bye-bye.